Standing at the reception desk, I stared at the name tag that read, Lucy, the family disappointment. The words cut deep, as if someone had casually labeled a drink instead of trampling on my dignity. Laughter from the bar caught my attention, Karen, always ready with a belittling remark disguised as a harmless joke. I met her smug smirk, feeling anger surge within me. I wanted to react, to throw the name tag or cause a scene, but I knew better. Karen thrived on provoking me, and I refused to give her the satisfaction. I placed the name tag back on the desk, feigning indifference, but inside, I knew I had reached my limit. My father's birthday party was a grand affair, filled with wealthy guests and extravagant dishes, a stark contrast to the simple meals of my childhood. No one noticed me. I was an intruder in this world of opulence. I spotted my father, beaming as Olivia and Hunter boasted about their achievements. I was just an afterthought, a shadow in the midst of their perfection. His gaze met mine briefly, long enough for me to see the distance, the indifference, and the disappointment. He hadn't wanted me there, and he didn't bother to hide it. I picked up a glass of champagne, my hand trembling slightly, but I refused to let anyone see my weakness. What the hell am I doing here? I thought, feeling the cold liquid slide down my throat, doing nothing to ease the tightness in my chest. Karen approached, her voice dripping with false sweetness. Lucy, long time no see. I forced a small smile, knowing exactly what she meant. I didn't work for a prestigious corporation, didn't have a shiny title, and didn't live up to their standards. She let out a soft chuckle, patting my shoulder lightly. But anyway, I suppose it's nice that you're here. Especially since someone prepared a little gift for you. I followed her gaze to the reception desk where the name tag lay. Rage surged through me, but I refused to let it consume me. I felt a strange, chilling calm instead. I was no longer the weak girl who had to endure their cruel jokes. Memories flooded back, dragging me to a time when I believed my father's love was unconditional. But everything changed when Karen entered our lives. My father remarried, and I was pushed to the sidelines, expected to adapt and fit into their perfect family portrait. But I never truly belonged. Karen only loved her own children, Olivia and Hunter, while I was an obstacle, a disappointment. Standing at the reception desk, I stared at the name tag that read, Lucy, the family disappointment. The words cut deep, as if someone had casually labeled a drink instead of trampling on my dignity. Laughter from the bar caught my attention, Karen, always ready with a belittling remark disguised as a harmless joke. I met her smug smirk, feeling anger surge within me. I wanted to react, to throw the name tag or cause a scene, but I knew better. Karen thrived on provoking me, and I refused to give her the satisfaction. I placed the name tag back on the desk, feigning indifference, but inside, I knew I had reached my limit. My father's birthday party was a grand affair, filled with wealthy guests and extravagant dishes, a stark contrast to the simple meals of my childhood. No one noticed me. I was an intruder in this world of opulence. I spotted my father, beaming as Olivia and Hunter boasted about their achievements. I was just an afterthought, a shadow in the midst of their perfection. His gaze met mine briefly, long enough for me to see the distance, the indifference, and the disappointment. He hadn't wanted me there, and he didn't bother to hide it. I picked up a glass of champagne, my hand trembling slightly, but I refused to let anyone see my weakness. What the hell am I doing here? I thought, feeling the cold liquid slide down my throat, doing nothing to ease the tightness in my chest. Karen approached, her voice dripping with false sweetness. Lucy, long time no see. I forced a small smile, knowing exactly what she meant. I didn't work for a prestigious corporation, didn't have a shiny title, and didn't live up to their standards. She let out a soft chuckle, patting my shoulder lightly. But anyway, I suppose it's nice that you're here. Especially since someone prepared a little gift for you. I followed her gaze to the reception desk where the name tag lay. Rage surged through me, but I refused to let it consume me. I felt a strange, chilling calm instead. I was no longer the weak girl who had to endure their cruel jokes. Memories flooded back, dragging me to a time when I believed my father's love was unconditional. But everything changed when Karen entered our lives. My father remarried, and I was pushed to the sidelines, expected to adapt and fit into their perfect family portrait. But I never truly belonged. Karen only loved her own children, Olivia and Hunter, while I was an obstacle, a disappointment. But this time, I decided to show up, not to reconcile, but to face them one last time and close this chapter of my life. I was no longer the girl they could manipulate or belittle. I was stronger, wiser, and determined to let them know that their actions had shaped me into someone unbreakable. As I stood there, surrounded by the opulence and false cheer of the party, I knew this was my moment to confront the past and step into the future, free from their shadows. My father stood in the corner of the room, a glass of wine in hand, engaged in conversation with a group of powerful-looking businessmen. When his eyes landed on me, I saw a brief flicker of surprise, but it lasted only a second. Then his expression returned to its usual indifference, as if my presence there meant nothing at all. I almost laughed at how foolish I had been to ever expect more from him. I slowly made my way toward the bar, where Hunter and Olivia were chatting with a group of relatives. I had no intention of joining them, but Olivia's sharp voice cut through the air, making me pause. "Dad was so generous to pay for my wedding," she said, twirling the sparkling diamond ring on her finger. Her voice dripped with smugness. "But honestly, I think that's only natural." Of course, Hunter nodded in agreement. "Dad always prioritizes the kids with potential," he said. "The kids with potential." I pressed my lips together, taking another sip of wine to swallow the anger rising in my throat. So what did that make me in their eyes? I didn't have time to dwell on anger because at that moment, I realized the most important thing of the night. A small table near the entrance held neatly arranged name tags. No one seemed to pay much attention to them except me. I stepped closer, my eyes scanning the names. Uncle Mark, Cousin Rachel, Neighbor Tom. And then I saw it, a tag with my name on it, but underneath, in small yet unmistakable letters, were two words that made my blood boil: the disappointment. I picked it up, my fingers tightening around the edges until my nails nearly dug into my palm. What a pathetic joke. I didn't need to ask who did this. I already knew. At that moment, laughter rang out from the bar. Karen, her eyes gleaming with amusement as she watched me. I took a deep breath and slowly placed the name tag back on the table. I wasn't going to let them win. I didn't snap it in half, didn't throw it to the floor. I placed it back neatly, aligning it with the others as if nothing had happened. I didn't need to yell, didn't need to cry, didn't need to react the way they wanted me to because I knew exactly what Karen wanted. She wanted me to explode, to lose control, to cause a scene so she could paint me as petty and overly sensitive. But I wouldn't give her that satisfaction. I turned, lifted my glass to my lips, and took a slow sip, as if that name tag meant absolutely nothing to me. And when my eyes met Karen's, I smiled, a calm, unbothered smile, not angry, not wounded, just contemptuous. That smile made her frown. Not long after, my father approached. He didn't ask about the name tag, didn't show a hint of anger at the fact that I had just been humiliated at his own party. Instead, he merely glanced at me, took a sip of his drink, and said in that infuriatingly indifferent tone, "I didn't think you'd come." I tilted my head and shrugged. Neither did I. A brief silence hung between us. "Are you still doing that job?" His voice was low, as if he was trying to sound polite, but couldn't quite hide the disdain. "Which job?" I raised an eyebrow. "The company you're running?" I let out a laugh, unsure if it was from bitterness or exhaustion. "Yes, and it's doing better than ever." He didn't respond right away. He just looked at me for a long moment, as if assessing whether I was lying. Then he sighed, took a sip of his drink, and said, "Good for you." That was it, no congratulations, no sign of pride, just an empty phrase before he turned and walked away, blending back into his crowd. I stood there, watching his figure disappear, then looked around the room. This place, where everyone was complicit in my exclusion, did they think I would endure all of this in silence? Did they think I would just stand by and let them belittle me without consequence? I knew then that I had to make a stand, not just for myself, but for every time I had been made to feel less than. I wasn't going to let them get away with it anymore. I was stronger now, and I was ready to show them just how much I had changed. The decision to attend my father's birthday party was not an easy one. Part of me wanted to avoid the inevitable confrontation, but another part of me needed closure. I needed to face them one last time to truly move on. As I drove to the mansion, memories of past hurts and disappointments flooded my mind. But this time, I was determined to stand my ground and show them that I was no longer the vulnerable girl they once knew. Walking into the grand entrance, I felt a mix of emotions, nervousness, anger, and a strange sense of empowerment. The mansion was filled with the sound of laughter and clinking glasses, a stark contrast to the silence and tension I felt inside. I made my way through the crowd, trying to avoid drawing attention to myself, but it was impossible not to feel the weight of their stares. I could almost hear their whispers, their judgments, but I held my head high. As I approached the bar, I saw Hunter and Olivia holding court with a group of relatives. They were the center of attention, just as they always were. Olivia was showing off her engagement ring, her voice filled with pride as she talked about her upcoming wedding. Hunter stood beside her, nodding along, his smirk a mirror image of our father's. I paused for a moment, taking in the scene. This was the family my father had always wanted, perfect, polished, and completely devoid of genuine emotion. I remembered the countless times I had tried to fit into their mold, to be the daughter my father wanted me to be. But no matter how hard I tried, I never measured up. I was always the outsider, the one who didn't quite belong. And as I stood there, watching them, I realized that I didn't want to belong anymore. I didn't want to be part of their perfect facade. I wanted to be true to myself, even if that meant standing alone. My father's voice cut through the noise, drawing my attention. He was laughing with a group of businessmen, his voice booming with confidence. As I watched him, I felt a pang of sadness. This man, who was supposed to be my protector and guide, had failed me in so many ways. But I refused to let that sadness consume me. Instead, I used it as fuel for my determination. I was here to confront him, to show him that I was no longer the girl he could control or manipulate. As I stood there, gathering my courage, I noticed the name tags on the table. My heart sank as I saw my name, followed by the words, "The Disappointment." It was a cruel joke, a reminder of the role I had always played in this family. But as I stared at the tag, I felt a surge of anger. I was more than just a disappointment. I was a survivor, a fighter, and I refused to let them define me anymore. I picked up the name tag, my fingers trembling with rage. But instead of letting that rage consume me, I felt a strange calm wash over me. I was no longer the 14-year-old girl who had to endure their cruel jokes and constant criticism. I was stronger now, and I was ready to show them just how much I had changed. With a deep breath, I placed the name tag back on the table, aligning it neatly with the others. I didn't need to make a scene or cause a commotion. I didn't need to prove anything to them. I knew who I was, and that was enough. As I turned to face the crowd, I felt a sense of empowerment. I was here to confront the past, to stand up for myself, and to finally let go of the pain and hurt that had held me back for so long. And as I stood there, surrounded by the opulence and false cheer of the party, I knew that this was my moment to take control of my narrative. I was no longer the disappointed daughter, the outsider, the one who didn't belong. I was Lucy, strong, resilient, and determined to live my life on my own terms. And with that realization, I felt a sense of peace wash over me. I was ready to face whatever came next, knowing that I had the strength and courage to overcome any obstacle in my path. As I stood in the center of the room, all eyes on me, I felt a strange sense of calm. This was my moment to confront the past and step into the future, free from their shadows. I lifted my glass slightly and smiled. I suppose this is a special occasion, isn't it? A grand celebration for the man of the night. My father's shoulders relaxed slightly, maybe thinking I would simply say something polite and move on. He raised his glass, waiting. I let them wait, taking a deep breath, letting the silence stretch a little longer, letting them wonder what I would say next. Then, with a voice calm but edged with ice, I continued, "My father always taught me that family is meant to be a place of respect and support, that we should always stand by each other, isn't that right?" A few people nodded, assuming I was reinforcing my father's beliefs. They were wrong. I turned, meeting his gaze directly. But then I realized that for some people, family only exists as long as you follow the rules they set. Step outside their expectations, and suddenly you become a disgrace, an outsider. The energy in the room shifted instantly, tension rippling through the crowd like a wave. My father blinked but said nothing. Karen forced a tight smile, her fingers gripping her glass as if she wanted to crush it. I used to believe that if I worked hard enough, if I proved myself, my father would see me differently, that he would finally acknowledge me. I let out a small, humorless laugh. But then I realized something. I smiled, but there was no warmth in it. I never even had a chance. Lowering my glass, I let my gaze sweep across the room, meeting each pair of eyes that had once dismissed me. My father only recognized those who followed the path he had set, the children he could control, mold to his liking. But me? I chose to live my own way, and for that I became the family disappointment. I paused, raising an eyebrow with mock amusement. Oh, no, wait, they were kind enough to remind me of that with the lovely little name tag they prepared just for me. A few people exhaled sharply and murmurs started. I saw Hunter frown, Olivia's eyes widen, and Karen tried to keep her composure, but her fingers trembled as she set her glass down. My father cleared his throat, trying to regain control of the situation. Lucy, not now. I laughed. Not now? Oh, but Dad, it seems like it's never the right time for you to acknowledge me as your daughter, is it? Silence. I stepped forward, slowly closing the distance between us. All my life, I only wanted you to be proud of me, just once. But I get it now, that will never happen because I'm not Hunter, I'm not Olivia. I'm not someone you can manipulate. I saw his jaw tighten, but he didn't deny it because he knew I was right. And my dear stepmother, I turned to Karen, giving her a slow, disdainful smile. You spent years trying to erase me from your perfect little family portrait. But unfortunately for you, I'm still here. Karen stiffened but forced a fake smile. Lucy, you're being overly sensitive. It was just a joke. Oh, was it? I cut in, my voice light yet sharp as a blade. Well then, I have a joke for you too. I raised my glass, letting my gaze sweep across the room, knowing that this time, I held the power. Happy birthday, Dad, and congratulations to everyone here, I said, pausing just long enough for them to hold their breath. Because this will be the last time any of you ever see me. A wave of shock rippled through the room. Olivia's mouth fell open, Hunter's brow lifted, Karen blinked rapidly, and my father froze. Lucy, don't you dare, he started, but I didn't let him finish. I set my glass down on the table and turned away, no explanations, no hesitation. I walked through the doors, feeling lighter than ever before. I wasn't running away, I was setting myself free. In the car, my breath was unsteady, but it wasn't from fear or doubt, it was adrenaline. I had finally broken free from their toxic cycle. I pressed the ignition button but didn't drive just yet. I sat there, staring through the windshield at the brightly lit mansion behind me. The music still played, but I knew no one inside was in the mood to celebrate anymore. They were talking, they were shocked, they were angry, and I didn't care. I pulled my phone from my purse and unlocked it. A string of messages flashed across the screen. Karen, you've gone too far, Lucy. Come back immediately. Olivia, are you trying to ruin this party? Unbelievable. Hunter, you seriously have issues. Talk to Dad. I let out a small, amused scoff, scrolling past them without replying. My phone vibrated in my hand, my father was calling. I stared at the screen, my finger hovering over the decline button. A part of me wanted to pick up, to hear what he had to say, but I already knew how this would go. He wouldn't apologize, he would only try to regain control, to feed me more empty words about family and responsibility. I declined the call. A text popped up immediately after. Dad, come back. We need to talk. I didn't respond. I had nothing left to say to them. The next morning, I woke up in my small apartment, sunlight streaming through the window. No more fake laughter, no more snide remarks, no more condescending stares. I turned on my phone, dozens of unread messages. I pressed block number on each name. Dad, Karen, Olivia, Hunter. Done. I sat still for a few seconds, waiting to see if guilt would creep in, but it never did. All I felt was relief. 3 days later, as I was getting ready for work, my phone rang from an unknown number. I hesitated, then decided to answer. My father's voice came through, low and steady as always. "Lucy," he said bluntly, "I want you to come back. You can't just walk away from family like this." I closed my eyes, taking a slow breath. "Did you call to control me or to apologize?" Silence. I already knew the answer. "Family is supposed to stick together, Lucy." His voice dropped. "I don't want this to escalate any further." I tightened my grip on the phone. Not escalate further? As if everything they had done to me before wasn't already enough. "You never truly saw me as part of this family," I spoke slowly, each word severing the final thread between us. "Don't pretend that you suddenly care now." "Lucy, don't be selfish," he said. I laughed. "Did you really just say that?" Once again, silence. I pulled the phone away, glanced at the screen, and slowly pressed the button to end the call. No goodbyes. In the weeks that followed, I heard nothing from them. Everything was eerily quiet, no more guilt-tripping messages, no more veiled threats, no more heavy feeling whenever my phone buzzed. But there were moments when I wondered if I had gone too far. Did I really need to cut them off completely? Maybe I should have given them a chance to change. But then I remembered every time they abandoned me, every belittling remark, every condescending glance. They hadn't changed, they never would. And I realized I had done the right thing. What does freedom taste like? It tastes like peace. Lucy's story isn't just about cutting ties with a toxic family, it's about reclaiming her worth. Sometimes true freedom doesn't come from being accepted, but from having the courage to walk away from those who no longer belong in your world. Society binds us to the word family, but blood doesn't always mean love. You are not obligated to maintain relationships that bring you pain. True happiness comes when you choose a life where you no longer need to prove yourself to anyone except yourself. What do you think about Lucy's decision? Did she go too far, or was this the only way for her to find peace? Share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to follow the channel for more powerful stories about family betrayal and the journey to self-discovery.